How's it going?
Good.
We are going to get started at 6:05 because people are still filtering in, so we want to give everyone enough time to get in and get settled. Okay? Thank you.
Will that delay our out time, or will it allow us 5 extra minutes?
Unfortunately, no. We have to be out. 7:45. We have to start heading out.
I think we got a lot of people here who want to speak, so maybe we can start on time.
It's fine by me.
Yeah.
You guys want to start?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I tell you, this is the biggest crowd we've ever had for the Book of the Month Club, so really appreciate you guys coming. I had to say it, though. I had to. Sorry. My wife tells me I'm the king of bad jokes, so I had to start with one. My name is Luke Bonner with the Bonner Advisory Group. I'm the real estate consultant for this project. I have Eric Leaf and Tucker Snipes from Landmark, and John Myefski from Myefski Associates, the architect. I just want to run through a few things before we get started because it's going to be a busy night. First of all, I do want to thank Eli. Thanks, Eli, for being our host. We have the space until 7:45, like I said. And Eli is our humble host. We are your humble host, so we ask that everybody also be our humble guest as part of tonight's evening. We do have capacity constraints due to fire code. So you've all received the flyer that's got a room on it. There's room for 120 here. The overflow room is on the 4th floor for 150 people. That is being live streamed up there. When you guys do have the opportunity to speak, we do ask that you speak into the microphones because people on the 4th floor then will be able to hear you as well. We ask that you keep hallways clear and allow patrons to have quiet enjoyment in the library. And this is for anybody that ends up spilling out into the library area. When we reach capacity, if you do know somebody that shows up that can't get in because of capacity and you want to switch with them, by all means, go ahead and switch. Just make sure that you exchange your flyer because we have people keeping track of head count. Your flyer has an email address on it. That's questions@galleriamall.com. If you are interested in future meetings, so this meeting is required by the city of Ann Arbor under their city citizen participation ordinance. If you're interested in other meetings that we have, those are not required by the city. So please email that address with your information so you get on our contact list. Then please also send future questions and comments to that email address as well. Let's see, we have had a lot of emails. How many of you have sent an email to me? All right, well, I'll tell you, I have received 1,969 emails in counting, and I want to thank you for making sure that they were all template format because I did actually read every single one of them. It was easy to skim through a lot of them. A lot of the comments, which we'll address tonight, but were generally the same. There were some about some arcade in town. Pinball Pete's? I'm here. King of bad jokes, right? Bad jokes. We had questions about and comments about working with retailers, supporting local retailers, having a high-density mixed-use project with street-facing retail, reducing parking and creating more retail space, meeting city sustainability goals, meet the city's walkable and mobility goals, breathe new life into Southview, Ann Arbor needs more housing. Those were a lot of the comments that we ended up getting. We have received a lot of the input, like I said, so tonight, when you have the opportunity to speak, we do ask, if possible, that we not regurgitate a lot of the stuff that's already been sent to us. If you have additional comments or additional feedback, we really, really want to hear it. And that's what this is for. Like I said, we have well over 2,000 emails already. When we do open up the mics, we got two, one on each side, just for efficiency's sake. So come up, we're going to give you 30 seconds to make your point, and then filter back out. We will, if we can answer it, we will. We may just take your comments and then go from there. So that's it. So we're hoping for a good, productive meeting. We have some project information to show you, and thanks for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Eric Leaf from Landmark. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Eric Lee, Landmark Properties. Thanks everybody for being here. As Luke mentioned before, this is the best turnout we've had for one of these type of meetings. And I guess real quick, I guess Luke already introduced everybody. Tucker is here with me with Landmark, John Myefski from Myefski Architects. Landmark Properties, we are a housing owner, operator, developer, manager. We're a vertically integrated company, which means we're not only a developer, but we're also a long-term holder, property manager, our own general contractor. And this would be hopefully our third project in Ann Arbor. I know why a lot of the people are here right now, and elephant in the room, obviously, pun intended, Pinball Pete's. We understand the Pinball Pete's a beloved institution in Ann Arbor. When we started this process, maybe we didn't fully appreciate how beloved Pinball Pete's was in Ann Arbor. We've had preliminary conversation with the ownership of Pinball Pete's. We've also had some preliminary conversations with the current owner of the property. And we want to do everything we can to ensure that Pinball Pete stays in Ann Arbor. Obviously, this is the beginning of what's going to be a years-long process. We still have to do, additional meetings with the city's design review board, eventually go to planning commission before a project's ultimately potentially approved. Then there's, years of architecture. There's work to relocate some of the existing tenants that are in that space before, again, hopefully the new project would start. We had a preliminary neighborhood meeting, not the city required meeting, but an informal meeting a few weeks ago where we started getting feedback from individuals about increasing the amount of retail and commercial space in the project, particularly to have a better, space for retailers in the area and being able to put some of the existing tenants hopefully back in the project. And so between that first neighborhood meeting and now, we've managed to significantly increase the amount of ground floor commercial space in the project. Part of that has been through initial conversations with the city about their flexibility to relocate trash pickup. It sounds a little cliche, but in any sort of dense project, you almost have to start the design with the trash room, right? Because the trash is going to happen, you have to get in and out. In Ann Arbor, and everywhere really, we're trying to separate trash and recycling and being efficient with that, minimizing the pickups, et cetera. And so, from the first iteration of this plan and now, we have made material strides to adjust where we are planning to do trash pickup, and that has allowed for us to significantly expand the amount of proposed commercial square footage in the project. We'll have an opportunity for questions later, but that's kind of the high-level introduction about who we are, how we kind of look at this project. We look at it as an iterative process, right? We want feedback from the community. We want to build a project that as many people as possible are happy with. Obviously, we're cognizant we can't always make everybody happy, but we'd like to do the best job that we can. And yeah, I'll turn it over to John for just a few minutes to talk about architecture, and then I think we'll save the vast majority of this time for comments and questions.
Great. Hi, I'm John Myefski of Myefski Architects. I would just kind of briefly walk through. Typically, this meeting's more about this, the architecture, but we'll try to keep it brief. But if there are those of you that have comments, please make those and fill us in, because that's important as well. But I just want to leave enough time. So I think what's really important to understand about the building is effectively what zoning sometimes will refer to as a by right building. It has a process it has to go through, but we're not really asking for anything unique or unusual. The mass, the density, the scale is appropriate, it's permitted. It's more a matter of how we work with that mass and that density. To start off, I thought it was very important, when you look at the building on its own, which you'll see it looks like a very large building. And it is, but it's not a very large building in the context of what's happened in the last 10 years in the neighborhood. And there probably is not a better spot for density for housing as far as a walkable environment for both students and residents than this site is. It's pretty much right in the heart of everything, and that's the beginning. That's where we started, and this just gives you an overall sense of what the scale of what I'll show you will pop up in a few minutes. Next. Kind of starting at the bottom, it's very basic, but right now the building itself is on University. That's the top of the page. One thing we've worked with DDA on is the idea of actually creating a stronger pedestrian area in front of the building, so that if there is a retail use, that is actually something that is not parking anymore. That will actually all be pushed out, and you can slightly see that curb cut. Then on either side of our site, one side is already pushed out, and on the other side it's actually pushed back. So we won't impact our neighbors in any way, but we'll be removing the parking in front of us and pushing the sidewalk out. The rear of the properties actually are access to get into the site, and from that rear point we basically will have two criteria: an entrance for the first floor parking, a ramp to get up to second floor parking, and then the ability to have a trash pickup area. For building this large, trash becomes kind of important, and that's something we have to work a lot with the city on. They have a lot of very specific rules related to trash. We've had those conversations, and we really don't have a lot of options. There's be no reason why we'd want to take traffic off of University or pick the trash up off of University. We want to keep that for pedestrians and bikes. And so the other thing that we're including on the far left is a bike room that actually has access in and out of the building directly from University on the front. Next. When you go above that, it's housing. So there's a lot of housing. The units, the shape of the building, architecturally becomes something that's relevant to housing. It's not an office building, so it can't be a big square. It doesn't fill in the whole site. Typically, the core and the width of the building is relatively narrow compared to other buildings, and then we wrap around the core with the units, and it leads us to this kind of architectural shape as far as the floor plan goes. Next. The very top of the building is a place where, in order to get more retail on the first floor, we want to pull all the amenities for the building, study rooms, lounge, fitness, all those things, and put those up on the top of the building. So it's intended to see all the pink areas would be moved to the top of the building. They're kind of south-facing. There would be a large amenity outdoor space for that area as well on the roof, and then a pool that sits up on the very top of the roof. There are units that face University across the front. And then that kind of brings us to the architecture. I don't know if you can shrink that a bit. Yeah. Effectively, we have kind of a few key clues that are part of the zoning that we need to follow. One is that the building needs to create a base, and that base, in our case, is a brick base that wraps around. There's metal panel, there's glass, there's windows, there's a lot of penetrations, but it tries to give a scale and feel to what you'd see along the street. We break our buildings up with the smaller and the mid-sized building on either side of ours, with a little dark band that happens to be on one side where we would have bike parking, and on the other side that would just be another entrance or just glass for the retail area. Then the building is required to be set back as it goes up, and then as it runs up, we basically have a very strong corner that faces the campus, and then we have balconies that wrap around. We're kind of using a mixture of different materials. We want to have brick, which I've already talked about. We'll obviously have glass and windows. We will have this kind of glassy corner element, which is considered to be more window wall. And then as we go up in the building, we'll go from metal panel to kind of a textured panel system. And then the balconies themselves will most likely be metal railing panels. And then as we get to the very top of the building, we wrap around the top part with glass. And then we kind of accentuate the very top band of the building with some just very small little elements that pop up so that there would be some sense of a top to the building. These are some of the things that came out of our very first community meeting. There was a request, we don't show it here yet, but to put a bike literally above the bike door, so we might actually have a bike, so it's pretty obvious what goes there. We were asked to try to find a strong corner. We were also asked to give the building a sense of top and to try to find a way to create an architectural style that had a base, a shaft, and a top. We were also asked to address the trash in a way that kind of kept it, to some extent, out of the building as far as possible and keeping it in the back. And then we were also asked to kind of create a very strong entry and then work towards trying to get as much retail as we possibly could. Parking is always a hot question in Ann Arbor. When we go to the Planning Commission, generally speaking, we'll be asked not to have parking. When we go to community meetings, we're really asked to have parking and that there isn't enough parking. Parking is something that we'll find the right balance for, and right now when you saw the proposed plan, we're kind of looking at balancing that between both parking on the first floor and the second floor of the building, and then considering finding some parking spaces from the adjoining parking structure. Probably can't find a better location with parking. We could debate if that parking is available. It's certainly available right now. And so those are the things that we're going back and forth so we can find the right balance for the parking. We definitely agree that parking needs to be quite limited in this location because it's so super walkable, but there'll still be a limited need for some. Next. This is looking now from the other corner just so you can see it, and to be honest, I'm pulling the buildings out across the street. You won't get these views. If we go further, the next step, then I'll start to show you more of a standard street view. It'll actually make the building look much smaller because you won't be able to see as much of it. But these were kind of set up for design review. This is something that they asked to see. They want to be able to see the whole exterior of the building in a three-dimensional shape. Next. And then this is the back view of the building where I was kind of talking about the alley. At that very lower part, there's kind of a plaza there. We kind of called it the Transformer Plaza because it's full of electrical transformers and a few trees. And we are proposing to put a large mural. I think the mural that we did at the Standard just off of Packard was hugely successful. And that usually goes through a process of working with the local arts commission to find an artist to do the mural. So it's not going to say mural. It'll be a piece of art. We just haven't figured out what that's going to be yet. Next. And I think that just takes us back to where we left off, so you can see the overall view. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Luke.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is open mic time. This is what I asked for. Please. We've got 2 mics. If you guys want to say something, start forming your line on both microphones. Like I said, 30 seconds would be great so that we can get through everyone. We do have, I can say this, thousands of emails voicing a lot of interest, concerns, comments about Pinball Pete's, about the things I mentioned earlier, walkability, retail, and that sort of thing. So if at all possible, try to frame your comments maybe differently than what we've already heard. And if you are standing in line and want to speak and somebody said the exact same thing that you said, then if you want to hop out of line or just say something a little different, that would be great. With that, we're going to alternate mics, and we'll start here first.
All right, hi, my name is Julie Pastorino, and I'm here today to talk about the importance of Pinball Pete's to the Ann Arbor community. I'm what you would call a terminal Ann Arborite, of somebody who was born here, went to U of M, and chose to stay here because of the culture and character of Ann Arbor and how much I enjoy living here. If we lose an institution like Pinball Pete's, where many of our parents spent time and where many of us grew up, it would be such a loss for this community, and it would be so sad for yet another iconic storefront on South University to be torn apart on account of increased development. It seems to me that there should be some kind of solution for both things to remain. Obviously, we need more housing in this community, but it would be also fantastic if work could be done to make sure these other iconic places get preserved, lest this building be remembered forever in town by the people of this town as the place that tore down Pinball Pete's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am here to voice my opposition to the proposal at hand, largely because of the impact it will have on Pinball Pete's, which is absolutely synonymous with Ann Arbor culture. I do believe that we all in this room need to be cognizant of the fact that the proposal as planned does not have any clear, concrete way of, or definition for relocation, preservation, or continuation of the Pinball Pete's business, and it impoverishes the community as a result. We need, as a community, need to consider whether our legacy is to be fostering the tapestry of small, unique businesses that have contributed to the diversity and artistic culture of Ann Arbor, or whether we wish for more high-rise, high-density, high-capacity, high-cost housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a whole, sorry. I had a whole speech prepared, but since you've already covered most of the points I was going to make, I won't repeat them, and instead I'll say this. Concerning your promises to address our concerns, I think I speak for most of us when I say I'll believe them when I see them. I would like you to present a comprehensive plan to preserve these essential Ann Arbor institutions and not further the city's systemic problems with affordability and car dependency. Also, just a personal note here, I've seen like 10 different buildings in the city alone that look exactly like the one you're proposing. Please do better.
I share many of the same sentiments of people in this room as far as Pinball Pete's goes. I love spending time there in high school and college. Ann Arbor prides itself on being a college town. Student housing is important, so is student life. Ann Arbor does not need more luxury student housing. There's already Zaragoza, Landmark, 611, and Victor's Village. You can see them all on the map there. We don't need another luxury apartment building. We need affordable student housing. So if you could speak to the anticipated pricing of the apartments in that building, I'd be interested to hear how you plan to make those new rooms affordable to the majority of the student body.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. The way we look at this is a fundamental supply and demand question, right? And to bring down the cost of housing, you have to increase the supply of housing. And that's what we are trying to do. Ann Arbor runs essentially 100% occupancy rate for residential in the downtown, which is really not healthy. So we're very cognizant of the lack or the need for additional housing here, and we're trying to figure out a way to do it thoughtfully here. And
so I think that so Pinball Pete's an important space downtown, not just culturally, but it is also one of the very few places in Ann Arbor that is like a third space where you can just go and you don't have to like pay money. You can just it is a place to like exist outside of your home and work. And I just wonder what your plan will provide to the people of the community, as like in terms of areas that they can use, not just for shopping or retail in general. What you plan to provide to the community that will like provide like place for young people to like exist. And also about the post office that's in it, is there any plans on relocating that into the same building? Thank you.
We're actually still working through several of those items with the existing tenants. We don't have a concrete plan yet. I know that's probably frustrating to hear, but we are going to have several more meetings, and we will continue to work on that. So, yeah, I appreciate that feedback.
Hi, everybody. My name's David. When I was walking in today, I noticed that there's a real eclectic group of people here that I think is representative of Pinball Pete's culture. We got some young people, we got some old timers, some real pinball wizards. That's how I do Pinball Pete's. I've been going to Pinball Pete's for a long time, and I do mean a damn long time. It's been about 30 years since the first time I was taken into Pinball Pete's out in Lansing in the Frame Door Shopping Center. Since then, I've been in East Lansing and Ann Arbor, and I just want to say that when you're walking down those stairs, like, it's a lot more than just my memories. It's a legacy. Okay? They don't make arcades like Pinball Pete's anymore. And so whatever Pinball Pete's wants is what I want. And if they don't want this, then I don't want it. And I'll be right there with them. Thank you.
So I've been going to Pinball Pete's since I was in middle school, and one thing that I do want to point out is that Pinball Pete's is a safe space for Ann Arbor's youth, and I personally feel that we've been losing a lot of those spaces, like he's been saying, with Belmark Lanes, with Quality 16, now Pinball Pete's, among other places. I feel like Ann Arbor is just becoming the space where it's just expensive housing and jewelry stores, and there's nowhere for our youth to like spend time in where they can be safe, just be together with friends, be in like a supervised space.
impossible not to echo a lot of the sentiments here, but you mentioned what has happened in the past 10 years in this area, referring to how Pete's is no longer qualifying as a large building in this context. Well, what's happened in the past 10 years is the redevelopment of our beloved city into another cookie-cutter 15-minute city. It's now essentially a giant H&M store. To dislocate, dismantle Pinball Pete's in the interest of yet another ritzy high-rise development is another example of what the issues are that we face in this city. Pete's is one of the few places in Ann Arbor a person can spend an evening without drinking or spending $100 on dinner. As you create more gaudy high-rises and private parking, you ruin the very reasons a person might want to move to this city.
I am Matthew Kowalski, a former Ann Arbor resident who now lives in a nearby suburb. I speak for myself on this issue. I do not want to see this apartment structure parking center built. I do not see a purpose. I do not want to see this apartment structure parking center built. Sorry. The cultural impact on Ann Arbor is profound. I will not regurgitate the zoning rules in APAMC, which this proposed development violates. Pinball Pete in particular thrives with foot traffic. I question the ability to find a suitable place so close to campus organic foot traffic. Yes. There's already a large, not overcapacity parking structure located directly adjacent to the property. Anytime I come during the middle of the day, most of the spots appear to be free. The post office is also an ongoing issue. I won't regurgitate everything about it, but I will let you know, when I was a student, if I needed to use the post office, the next nearest one is taking a bus, potentially waiting about 2 hours to deal with that. So if there's no post office, it kind of sucks for everyone nearby. With respect to Pinball Pete's, there are fewer and fewer family-friendly venues, and those talked about that. The only other similar venue with historically important machines is Marvin's Mechanic and Museum, about 45 minutes away from here to the northeast, which is also under similar duress by developers. I bring out-of-town friends to Pete's because it's a truly unique venue. It's always one of the places, there's really nothing else like it. The nearest, besides the one I just mentioned, is Galloping Ghost. I'm going as fast as I can. Sorry, I had a blogger thing. I'm almost done. Sorry, buddy. Galloping Ghosts, they focus on arcade machines, not pinball machines. I'm not going to get into all of that, but pinball machines in particular. Pinball Pete's has about 30 of them, and you will not find anywhere else in the Midwest that has them as well as maintained. You might find a random laundromat with like one of them, and that's about all you're going to get in the entire Midwest.
Okay, thank you.
Take your time, buddy. The last thing I was going to ask you is, what is the current vacancy rate of the Landmark building across the street?
That actually is not our building. I know it's got the same name as our company, but it's actually not ours. But do you happen to know what the occupancy is? I don't know.
The last data I have is 5%. So to say that it was completely, you're at full capacity in the area, that's not necessarily a true statement. Thank you.
I've come here today in support of Pinball Pete's. Pinball Pete's represents a unique location, a small, not small, but family-owned type arcade, not corporate, focusing on amusement games, not redemption games like your Dave & Buster's, like your Round One. Pinball Pete's is in a location where it's walkable. It's a third place, like it was mentioned earlier. I don't really see the need for another luxury apartment. I've heard the argument that luxury apartments will free up lower cost apartments to make everything more affordable, but I've yet to see evidence of that happening. Anyway, thank you everybody for being here. Hopefully Pinball Pete's will continue to be strong in the community.
I'm Alana, I'm a student at U of M, and I'm speaking not only on the cultural impact of Pinball Pete's, which a lot of people have talked about. I wanted to talk about the proximity, both because its proximity to campus makes it an important cultural center for the youth, but also on the post office. So I'm a woman living with neuropathic pain, and I rely on that post office a lot to get commission work over to said post office. And someone else spoke on the distance between the other post office. I know a lot of other small creators like myself that rely on that post office, sometimes similarly disabled and hoping to have less of a difficulty taking big projects over to other post offices. So I really encourage you to take into account the impact that might have on other small businesses, not only Pinball Pete's, but student-run businesses and things like that. Thank you very much.
I'm the guy who set up SavePete's.com and wrote a lot of the letters that you guys have. I do want to open by just saying thanks to Luke for your patience with us. I know this is not what you expected to get necessarily in terms of response. I know that probably about 1,000 messages that we had driven to you may have been lost. I tried to contact you about that, but did not get a response back. I do have copies of almost every message that was sent to you along with the original emails. I'd like to offer to forward them to you.
Please do.
And then I did have a couple of just quick comments as well. The first one being, you know, Pinball Pete's is important, the post office is important, but one thing that is really critical, I think that is overlooked in this conversation, is that we have a commercial space crisis in Ann Arbor, where we are massively losing commercial space that is affordable for businesses, which means that the residents in these new high-rises do not have places to go, and businesses are turning over and dying at a too frequent of a level. So we are very appreciative as a community if you are sincerely working with the ownership of Pinball Pete's and the other businesses to keep them open there or in another location. But Galleria Mall is a backbone of that entire community space because of the commercial space that it provides, 45,000 square feet, that's almost all occupied. That has been almost all occupied since the 90s when it was constructed. So we would just ask that you maximize commercial space regardless of how it's used, in addition to working with the owners of the current businesses and making sure that they're able to be viable in the future.
Sure. Real quick, I just want to say the new email address that we've set up is going to us, and so we've eliminated any capacity constraints on that inbox. So, yeah.
Should I just forward everything directly there?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that would absolutely work. We're getting everything now, including me personally. So,
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Hello, my name is Clyde. I'm another student here, and I just wanted to say that growing up, I visited Ann Arbor a lot with my family, and one of the places my mom always took me to was Pinball Pete's. It was one of the places I looked forward to the most whenever I came. And then when I started going to school here, I went there with friends, clubs I was part of, like gathered there just to kind of like hang out and just take a moment to de-stress. And I think that's really important. And to lose that space would be really sad, especially because it's been here for like decades. It's been like a part of Ann Arbor's history for so long.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra. I am here as a local parent who is in support of Pinball Pete's. I first moved to Ann Arbor in 2010 to attend grad school. Since that time, I've chosen to raise my children here, not in any small part due to the fact that there are institutions like Pinball Pete's where I can take my children and I can have them entertained and engaged and learning for an actual reasonable price. And the nice thing about Pinball Pete's is it's a place that I can go where, as an adult, I can have just as much fun as my children. I'm not just suffering through them, enjoying all the time there. Additionally, I'd like to just say that my second grader was interested in math and doing money and counting for the first time ever at Pinball Pete's. The fact that it still uses quarters and it's not just slide cards, I think it's such a rare opportunity for them. Yes, you did.
And I responded.
Yes, you did. And so I do want to say that I think that it's a really unique institution and there's a lot of love for it for a reason. I really hope that my children are able to grow up and come to meetings like this in 30 years and say, I remember 30 years ago when I was a kid going to Pinball Pete's, and we should continue to have it.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jarek Szymanski. I'm a student at the University of Michigan and a lifelong Pete lover, I'd say. I would just like to say and reemphasize points that many other people have been making, that Pinball Pete's acts as a community beacon, a spot where children and young adults can attend. And it's sad to see that the new proposal will remove Pinball Pete's, remove the other shops and businesses from that location, while leaving Blue Leprechaun and Brown Jug, two locations that are unavailable to students unless they have a fake ID. And I really think that a place like this should exist, should be available for students, for young adults. And even though I am in favor of the proposal moving forward, I want to see more housing built in the Ann Arbor area, I do believe that the utmost effort should be placed in maintaining and protecting existing businesses there, and during the construction period when the businesses would have to be evicted temporarily, that compensation should be given in that case. So that's my request. Thank you.
definitely not tall enough to fit this mic because I'm 12 years old. And I just love Pinball Pete's and everything about it, and I really don't want to see it gone. I love going there, beating the bowling game the best I can, and then never actually beating it, being really sad. Never getting just enough tickets to what I actually want, so having to settle for something second tier but still cool. And yeah, I just love doing that. And I just love it. I really want Pinball Pete's to stay.
Hi, my name is Eddie, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Pinball Pete's, well, on behalf of and in support of, certainly. So, I have lived in Ann Arbor for the past 11 years. I came here for college, and similar to the first person who spoke, I believe your name was Julie, I can't quite recall. It has been an emotional and social center for me, and it was the place where I frequented to get sober over COVID, which is not easy, I will tell you that much. And watching so many local businesses, Outbar, also ironic considering I said I got sober, but I missed that one too. To see Outbar close during COVID and be replaced by all of these businesses which are so slick and lacking character and emotion, and it's very obvious to me that you didn't familiarize yourself that much with Pinball Pete's prior to beginning this project, because you don't have to spend a great deal of time in there to realize the depth and soul of that space and how much it means to this community.
Hi there, my name's Emily, and I'm a teacher at the school that's just on the other side of the parking structure. So I don't know which direction that is, but on Willard Street, and I'm just curious about some of the logistical things. I totally agree with you about removing parking and not having a parking space for every apartment. I'm curious about like where the delivery entrance would be for like Amazon, like Grubhub, like that kind of stuff for the building, if it would be in that back alley, or especially if you're removing or pushing the sidewalk out in front. So I'm just curious about that, as well as maybe how long the construction process would be. I know it's early for that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
We would intend to have what we call back of house functions come off what is effectively the alley and then go into that small parking area underneath the building. In terms of parking ratio, I mean, we are already programming a dramatically lower parking ratio than we would essentially anywhere else.
For sure.
We've already had preliminary conversations with the DDA about securing pseudo long-term parking leases in the existing city garage directly behind the site. So we would agree with that. In terms of construction period for a project this size, it would probably take about 2 years.
Okay.
That's like fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Everything goes the way it's supposed to, right? Stuff happens, obviously. But that, generally speaking,
Yeah. What is the zoning rules for parking of a building like this in this area?
So in the downtown zone now, the D1 zone now, Ann Arbor does not have any minimum parking requirements. They got rid of that a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. For example, when we did the standard, we had to hit a city-required minimum parking ratio. That has since been removed, and so the planned parking is going to be dramatically higher.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Of course, thank you.
My name is Natalia. I'm a student here at U of M, and I was really concerned about the destruction of Pinball Pete's because I discovered the beauty of it last year when I came here as an incoming undergraduate freshman. And my question is, why can you not repurpose the Galleria building that's already there and maybe build around the structures that are already there that support the community, that keep the community walkable and keep it a safe place, especially in an area like South University. It's very highly dense in traffic. There's a lot of people walking and driving, and by creating more parking structures in that area, it only introduces more cars and it makes it a less safe place. And I just don't understand how you guys are going to keep the character that comes with a walkable city by adding a parking garage and taking away something that is so incredibly important to not only student life, but residential life, to children, to alumni, to everyone in the Ann Arbor area. That is extremely important. And I would just like to ask why you can't repurpose the area instead, maybe build up from it, and why parking is absolutely necessary when I don't think that's the right area to put it in.
Sure. From a practical standpoint, the I mean, the foundations that are required to support a building that we're planning here aren't possible to build with the existing structure still in place, right? I mean, it just won't work to get the kind of density that we need to get to make a project viable. And that's why we can't just repurpose the existing building and go on top of it, right? Is we need the structural support and foundational support to support the building. In terms of parking, from the first meeting that we had about this project to now, we've already dramatically reduced the amount of parking at the ground level. We're not planning to build a typical parking structure. I mean, we're just planning for a very limited amount of parking to support the building itself. The vast majority of the project will be residential and commercial. So we've heard feedback, and we're working on iterations to try and get to something that's better.
So is there like a plan or thought about potentially figuring out a way to preserve that space and building around it? Like there's area there that like I'm assuming isn't used, which is why the Galleria needs to go down. Is there a way to preserve the buildings that are being used, like the parts of it that are, and maybe build around that?
I don't know, actually. I mean, the adjacent buildings around the Galleria Mall are not owned by the same individual, and to my knowledge aren't for sale. So we're trying to work within the constraints of the site that we have and the city's requirements in terms of massing and setbacks. So it's a challenging site. So we're still working through it. I mean, we really just started this process. We haven't started construction drawings, and we're really at concept plans. So we're still exploring that, but it is definitely a tight site, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is David. My son is 31. He's autistic. Pinball Pete's is his favorite place in all of Ann Arbor. We happen to be there this weekend on Sunday, and one thing I noticed is there are a lot of children there with their parents, 8 to 12 years old with their parents. So it's not just college kids, it's the whole family. So think about that. Also, I saw the Save Pete site, and it was mentioning how there's going to be like parking spaces for like 12 to 18 cars. I can't remember what the number is. And that's such a small number of cars. There's that parking structure behind the building that has many available spaces. It seems like you could just buy some of those and you'd be all set, and I would hope you would consider about that.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we literally have started conversations with the DDA, which manages that parking garage. We are trying to work through that now.
And if you do that, Pinball Pete's could stay, theoretically. And I would hope you'd think about it.
We, like I mentioned at the start of this, I mean, obviously, this is going to be a long process. We've had just a preliminary conversation with Pinball Pete's, and I know it's a tough logistical situation, but we are working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
My name's Kelly, and I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
I know that no project starts like this without some strategy and some research and stuff. So my first question, there seems to be two different camps. Do we need more housing? Do we not? Do we have these nondescript giant buildings taking over the retail spaces and so forth? So one is, what number of housing units need to be developed in order to break the housing shortage given the current needs of the population?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that the unknown there is how much does the population of Ann Arbor continue to grow, right?
Just base it on today.
So the Washtenaw County and City of Ann Arbor did a housing study in 2015. I think it said 3,400 housing units were needed in the next 20 years, which would be 2035.
3,400 units?
Correct.
And this building holds how many?
201.
11. Okay. And my second question is, you had mentioned that the occupancy rates were 100%. I think you were just referring to
effectively,
yours.
not
Okay.
not.
But
exactly.
has there been a study about occupancy rates across the board in Ann Arbor in terms of developments like this, let's say over the past 2 to 3 years when we really see these popping up?
Well, we did see some depressed occupancy during the initial phases of COVID, but coming out of COVID, at least the portfolio of properties that Landmark operates in, we've been effectively full, right? I mean, above 95% occupancy.
But that's only 3 buildings in the city.
We manage, third party manage a couple other ones as well. Foundry Lofts, Z-Play, Z-West. Yeah. Yeah, Luke says 98%, which would make sense to me. I mean,
So from a city perspective, is there places to see this research or the information?
I remember the housing study that was done, and then I believe as the city has been working to update their zoning code, they also hired a third-party consultant, Carlisle Wortman, that did some additional housing studies, and I think that's publicly available on the city's website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if you have specific questions, I mean, that email address, if you know, we're reading them, and we'll try and get you the data we can.
Okay.
My name is Zach, and I'm a stutterer. It has nothing to do with my speech, just makes it easier for me to talk. One of my main concerns, and I'm going to echo it from earlier, is about commercial space that's being depleted. Because I've been noticing in Ann Arbor, a lot of the businesses that are low-key and also low in cost are growing far and far, and few and far between. So, and most people, a lot of people cannot afford Ann Arbor prices. And so I'm worried that the people that you're trying to bring in for these houses are just going to add to the businesses that are being catered to most of the rich. And so I was looking on Zillow and also on Ann Arbor Free Press, and I saw on your first slide that you're going to do market rate housing. Now, according to them, that's around $500,000. Will that, also the prices of your units be around the same as $500,000?
Well, actually, these will all be rentals, not for sale.
Okay.
So yeah, not for sale condos. These will all be for rent. So.
Okay. And,
I don't know yet, but I mean, whatever. I mean, we are right. I mean, we are looking at market rents, right? I mean, the cost of construction is extremely expensive right now, and hasn't shown signs of slowing down yet, despite the Fed's goal to make that happen.
And I didn't want to mention the mural. So that's going to be right next to where you want to keep your outdoor trash.
We would plan to actually have the trash interior to the building and just picked up from a roll-up door. Yeah.
And where the mural was, that's going to be connected to where like the trash door building is.
In the vicinity, yeah.
Okay, because in the location, I'm not sure if people are familiar with that alleyway, but that's where you go to relieve yourself and to slam beers before you go into the Blue Leprechaun. So if you're going to add the smell of trash along with it, then I don't see how that's going to do anything artistically. So.
Just stand on my tippy toes for this one. Hi, my name is Quinn. I will have, in a few weeks, spent all 17 years of my life in Ann Arbor. I represent the youth of Community High School. I think it's understandable to say that none of my peers are too happy about this news. My many friends, parents, hell, even my therapist, all have memories of Pinball Pete's. It is, I cannot overstate this enough. Iconic, so iconic and important to Ann Arbor's LGBTQ community. And I suggest you find either another place or town to gentrify or preserve the establishment. Thank you.
I'm here also on behalf of Pinball Peter. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like not just the historic value of like it to Ann Arbor, but also just like the pinball machines and the arcade machines themselves hold a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of arcades that have just been absolutely razed to the ground, and it's something that we're absolutely losing in like every single community, right? So these games are important, and it's important to keep them accessible to the community. Like, it's important to provide the community with arts and media in the city. I mean, we're in a library, for good Lord. But like, it's one like thing about that is like I play a lot of old video games. I do a lot of that, and a consequence of that is like in my spare time I'm an independent game developer. So like these games continue to like inspire people, and they were masterpieces in their time, and they're masterpieces today. And we are just absolutely cutting our community's access to them by destroying Pinball Pete's.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm 70. I came here 30 years ago to live in the Ann Arbor area. Since the change in zoning allowing large buildings, and you just smirk the whole time, you don't know what's so funny. You're not thinking this is funny. The only rent prices you're going to bring down with more luxury housing are luxury housing rent prices. Well, I'm sorry, I'm short. The face of Ann Arbor is changing. It's becoming Grand Rapids. I think it's heartbreaking. The developers are not from Ann Arbor. They don't care what happens to Ann Arbor. They care about making money. And all this housing that we need, I can't believe it all needs to be luxury housing. I'm with a around here don't, and there's no place for them to live. And this isn't going to add to that or bring down the cost to them at all. It's just going to add more luxury housing, cut off the sunlight from the street so that when you walk down the street, you're in a shadow all the time. It's heartbreaking. I hate to see what's happening to Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Hi, I guess I'll say my name is Mark. I wasn't planning to, but and I have been around long enough to remember Pete's for many, many years, including when it wasn't in that location. So clearly, some version of movement is possible. I have a very quick comment and then one question. My first comment is you are four very brave men. The second question is, I'll admit to being ignorant of most of this process and where you are in it. Is it to the point where it sounds like you have bought the area and you own the building? Is that part of the transition? I'll just be, I don't know where you guys are.
We are not the current owners of the property, no, we are under contract.
I don't know what that means. I do apologize. I
Call it the in-between phase, right? If you were going to buy a house, you would, you would sign a contract, open escrow, and then there would be a lag period of time between when you sign that contract and when you actually close on the property. And so we are in that in-between zone, I would say.
Thank you very much. That's helpful.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm actually from Ypsilanti Township, but we spend a lot of weekends in Ann Arbor. My boys are 7 and 10, and to me it's not about the video games. I like video games, my boys like video games, but it's about bonding. Like as a dad, there's like, unless it's sports and they're younger kids, so they're not fully into sports yet, there's not a lot of places to go and just bond, spend time together. And Pete's has been that place for us. And because it's a small business, I mean, you go in there and somebody mentioned, oh, I never get enough tickets. I've been in there and my boys are like, oh, I want that, and I don't have enough tickets, and they give it to you anyways. I mean, you don't see that anymore with any of the big businesses and stuff. So, be really sad to see Pete's go. I would just ask that, like someone else mentioned, it has moved in the past, but that requires a lot of manpower and a lot of money. So I think that it's very important to allocate some funds to make sure that this institution is preserved. Thank you.
Honestly, don't laugh at me because I'm already really nervous. I don't see 4 brave men. I see the least diverse panel of gentrifiers. And you're part of the community, managing properties in the community, which I'm hearing you say, you came all the way down from Georgia, it's a great place, then you guys know how important this place is. And if you don't know that, then you're not the people for the job. You guys shouldn't be doing anything here because you clearly don't know or care about the community. I'm so sorry, and I wanted to appreciate all of the people that said such valid things. I'm glad that people didn't just walk up here and be like, no, please don't. I'm glad people, were like, what are you guys doing? Thanks, cool sweater guy and hoodie guy. I think, especially Luke, you're here with all of your Michigan stuff. I think you expected this. I don't think this was a shock to you. And so I'm really sad that you're...
I'm from Ann Arbor and I'm going to the Michigan basketball game after this.
Totally with it. Born and raised, and so was my family. So sad. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, we have thousands of overpriced apartments and it hasn't done anything yet. And I think that the right people for the job could do something creative because Ann Arbor is a very creative community. You guys know that. You did your research. People who were right for the job could do something amazing with what was there. So if you can't, I don't think you're the people.
I'm Maggie, and this is my daughter Rio. So I'm here to share some thoughts that Rio had, and also my own. So Rio and her classmates, she goes to Ann Arbor Open, she's in first grade, and they wrote letters about their love of Pinball Pete's. A few things that were in her letter that weren't shared so far, at least what I heard, is that it's really good for field trips and for birthday parties, and that it's been here since, I think, 1972, is that right? 1970, yeah. So those are Rio's thoughts. My thoughts are different. We are actually a split household, so that's part of why I'm trying to bring her here to learn about how different people can have different opinions. I teach at the University of Michigan, and I've seen my students be priced out of housing around Ann Arbor, and I really think it's important to build more rental houses, especially, and to build up the area downtown and near the campus. I really think that we need fewer one-story buildings and that we need to take more advantage of dense development in that area. So I'm supportive of building more apartments, but I was really glad to see on the flyer that I got that you're committed to trying to find a new home for Pinball Pete's, because I agree with Rio that it's a special place. But I don't think that it needs to be in a one-story building in a really core part of the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Right. So, this venture that you have is a short-term fix for a community and a business that's been built for over half a century. You have generations of people who have memories, loves, losses. I'm not losing. This crane game is just rigged. It will not truly eliminate the parking problem without a conversation of centralized transportation, especially in the core part of downtown. It will not truly eliminate the housing either. The plan proposed is inhabitable, but not livable. You're eliminating features of Ann Arbor that make people want to actually live there. What may be seen as progress is regression, and you're cutting off the relationship of all these people gathered here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey man, I want to say my name is Spencer. I'm a school teacher with the public schools, if it matters to anybody. I'm a former student, just graduated, so you know, low income school teacher. So definitely appreciate the increased density, attempting to have more housing supply. We know the current mall is not a good land use, it's just too low density. But I think one question I have for y'all in particular is that we know the Standard has trouble getting tenants for their retail spaces, and I've read, thank you MLive for covering it. And I think addressing that and making sure that these retail spaces are utilized, and I guess another poor example would be the George on Packer Street also. And I wonder if it's possible for y'all to push for upzoning of nearby areas like North University or Getty's, because they're, you know, a throw away from the area, but they're still very low density, and you know, there's single family homes that are converted into like R4C multi-student housing. So maybe that's something I could look into. The housing crisis is definitely real. We do have a lack of that for sure. I think one thing that I will ask everybody here to do is to think about the library lot that's just next to us. There was supposed to be an affordable housing unit that's supposed to be right there, and we passed a ballot initiative to make that another park, and that really put a dent into, because that can't even build a park. The waterproofing is not there, so let's try to make, you know, open up the options, build a housing that's there. And please work with Jess Lita and the DDA. They're really great people. They know so much, and I think they'll help you so much with building a thing that's really good for all of us.
Thank you so much. As we become more experienced as developers and owners in this part in particular, we are trying to be more thoughtful in the way we lay out retail and commercial spaces, so that we don't have vacancy in commercial areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a longtime resident of Ann Arbor. I went to year-round in community, class of 07. I share a lot of the same sentiment with a lot of people here, but instead of repeating a lot of that, I figure I may try to talk more on your level and tell you why Pinball Pete's would be extremely lucrative, not only to Ann Arbor, but if this proposal were to pass, be lucrative to you too. There are actually a lot of reasons why people don't want to come to Ann Arbor, whether it's too crowded, traffic, it's a college town, they don't want to deal with the new age people, or just the price. Pinball Pete's, however, everybody loves that arcade. Everybody. It brings in everybody from Southeast Michigan and further. Excuse me. A lot of ways that you would benefit from this. It would bring in families in the summers. It would bring in plenty of date nights, as it does already. It's a very affordable event that people can come and just spend their pocket change. I myself would go after school and use my spare lunch money, especially when I didn't have any place to go. So, yeah, I think it would be very lucrative to you because honestly, who wouldn't want to go to an arcade? You know, especially with places like Starbucks and post office, I think it's something to seriously consider. Thanks.
Hello. I know that we had another university fellow a moment ago, but I'm a staff member, a former student. I've been through it with Ann Arbor housing, and I'm sure aware that there is a housing crisis, a need for housing. With that said, what I have seen again and again with my peers, unless they were wealthy to begin with, wealthy as students, wealthy as professionals, the building of more housing in Ann Arbor has had a curious effect of not really aiding anyone I knew who would benefit from it, who already lives here. People get pushed out to Ypsilanti, and then as this trend spreads towards Ypsi, they get pushed out of there. It happens to me. I've seen it happen to other folks. And it's worrying when Ann Arbor's already known. I've been a Washtenaw resident my whole life, not in Ann Arbor for most of it. As an expensive, unlivable city that only gets more hostile to people as it goes on. And so because of that, I just wonder who the people are who are going to fill these houses as the market demands, who is being pushed out, who is a victim of the housing crisis at the moment, and who benefits at least from an institution that's open late at night, doors open, warm space in winter, tables to sit.
My name is Chris Myefski. I'm a student at WCC, Washtenaw Community College, and it's pretty safe to say that there's a lot of people that care very deeply about specifically Pinball Pete's, but I wanted to kind of take this opportunity to address the kind of major issue, which is the housing value of Ann Arbor versus the cultural and commercial value of Ann Arbor. And I would just like to ask, and this might be a bit too much of a weird question to answer, which is okay, but during the planning of a project such as this, do you know the amount of thought, consideration, or, for lack of a better term, care that you guys would like to put into retaining the cultural value? And I ask this because it's safe to say that around 80 to 90% of us are here because of a cultural place like Pinball Pete's. I see Pinball Pete's t-shirts all over the place, and it was quite telling to me, whether it was a joke or not, and if it was, I apologize, but it was quite telling to me that you simply referred to Pinball Pete's as some arcade.
Yeah. If I did, I didn't mean to. Obviously, this is an incredible outpouring of support. Candidly, it surprised me a little bit when we first started this process. But as I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, I mean, we are at the very beginning of this process. From our first iteration of design to now, we've already made some dramatic improvements to address comments, reduce parking, move trash, try to increase the commercial space. Based on this feedback, and we're going to continue trying to do that and trying to work with the community to improve the project. So it's definitely an iterative process that we're still at the beginning of, and we've got, I mean, it will literally be years before we would actually start construction if we're successful. So.
Hi, I'm a student here also, and I honestly am just like a little annoyed because you guys are up here talking about like all this great architecture and stuff, but I'm confused as to why, like Natalia was saying, you can't figure out a solution where Pinball Pete is preserved. Like, if you're able to put all these commercial spaces below it, like, why are you guys not able to be creative and come up with some kind of solution, even like renovation? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not an architect, but you can renovate it and make it. I know it doesn't have like the structure that you need to build on top of it, but like, that's not my job to figure out. That's your job. And so I'm a little confused why you haven't done that.
I get it. It's more than a challenge, unfortunately. We're under construction right now on another project here in Ann Arbor off Washington Street, and is on 616 Washington Street. As part of that, we actually built new bathrooms for the Michigan Theater, and part of why we had to do that is because of building code, fire code, just pure safety reasons. It wasn't appropriate to have high-rise construction going on above an occupied space. And so as part of that project, we literally built an entire new structure for the Michigan Theater's bathrooms, and then removed their old bathrooms to build a new project. So certainly not the cheapest option there. And that's a similar situation to what we're working through here, is that at least we haven't figured out yet how to do that in a practical sense without at least having to, at the minimum, we would have to vacate and close the building for a period of 2 years while we're under construction. And so that's really not tenable for businesses that are there. And so as part of this process, that's why we've been talking about trying to find a solution for relocation and then potentially putting it back in the building. But that's really the constraint, is the period of time during construction.
Hello, my name is Samuel Hayes. I work at one of the courthouses in downtown Ann Arbor, and I have a couple questions regarding some of you guys said you own 3 properties and manage 2 more, right?
Yeah.
So these are rental?
Yes, we own, we are the...
Let's skip all that. What's your cheapest rent?
We are a part owner and manager of other projects in this market, including the Standard, yes.
What's your cheapest rent? I know you don't arbitrarily set it, but what's your cheapest rent?
Well, at the Standard, there actually are some affordable units. Those rents are sent by Washtenaw County.
You gotta give me a number, bro. Give me a number, bro. I know the voucher gives you $500, but how much do I gotta come up with less to come up in it on your buildings? Because you're putting that housing as some silver bullet that's gonna make us all be quiet and go away, but not a single one of us in here are gonna be able to afford to live in that apartment once you're done. In this room that you're dismissing by calling it some arcade, looking at you, Jim, calling it some arcade, are the same people in 20 years you'll have to sit down and parlay with when you want to make more money. So I advise you go about this very carefully. How much does it cost to rent? You don't even know when you built the building. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's going on here. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
My name is Eric. I don't think there's really much I can say that has not already been said already. Well, I want to mention this because I think it's important that we're all here because there are forces bigger than us that are controlling the market on this. One big player that we're not talking about here is the university, who is They have pushed to get the richest kids in the entire country to come out all here for 4 years and spend all their money. So the people who are going to be living in these apartments are going to be the richest kids from, I don't know, California or something. And that's not your fault. Like, you guys are a development company, and you're the supply that meets the demand. But if you want the blessing of this community, who's going to be here longer than the 4 years that your tenants are going to be sitting there, you're going to have to make a concrete agreement. At a minimum, I think, to get some kind of commercial space that allows small businesses like Pinball Pete's or something comparable, like some kind of third space, and something that can stay and be available for the whole community. And until that happens, until you guys make some kind of concrete commitment to that, you're going to keep having this kind of reaction from the community, and they're going to resent you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I apologize. Everything I say is absolutely going to be redundant to what is already said, but I absolutely stand in support of Pinball Pete's. It's a place that I tell people about from out of state and explain what makes Ann Arbor, what is the heart of Ann Arbor, and it's Pinball Pete's. It's places like this that we can go and just spend time with friends. It's that third space that we really need. And I just can't imagine Ann Arbor without a space like Pinball Pete's. And I just want to also comment on what you said at the beginning of this, was that this is the largest turnout that you've had for things like this. And it's because we love Pinball Pete so much and we don't want to see it go. So I just stress again that you please take that into account, everything that we're saying here tonight.
I was born here and raised with a lot of time on campus because my father worked there. Pinball Pete's is not a place to live in, but it is a place that makes the city a place to want to live in. Ann Arbor no longer has any Chuck E. Cheeses. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum is also under fire. They want to raise it to put in a miter, but we don't have a Chuck E. Cheese anymore. It's important to have available family-friendly sober spaces. We don't want more stores that locals can't afford to run. We want Pete's. They do not charge at the door, but welcome folks in no matter how many quarters you can find in your pockets. It's getting harder and harder to find places that you don't have to pay just to exist in. Thankfully, something the library also provides. And you can't say that Pinball Pete's can just relocate within the city, because even if you don't care about any of the culture stuff, how valuable this location is, because that's why you want to take it from them, for Pete's sake.
I just wanted to take a moment and again thank the four gentlemen who are here today on behalf of the company that is looking to construct this construction. It's not easy for anyone in this room to be here, let alone to be speaking back and forth. Everybody that's come up to share, it takes a lot to do it. I'm here with my parents today. My dad and his business partner Ted have run the business forever. I've been going down those stairs in Pete's since there was a hole in the floor and there was escalators leading down into it before I could look over the glass. It's been my whole life. And of course, I want to see it retain, and they're doing their part to help keep that going. I think that in terms of the business side of things, I did have a few things that I wanted to mention that have already been mentioned, but I wanted to reiterate. I don't think there needs to be any parking in this building, from what I've seen. Parking structure out back, I've been using it for the 27 years that I've been either riding with my dad or driving down here myself. There's always empty spots, and if it's going to take up that much space for that little cars, I don't see the point. But also to reiterate what everyone's been saying in terms of it being a social space for everyone here. That's what it is. And I think that the building needs to focus more on that aspect in the main area of it with the retail space, but also drive into that social space. Because people don't want to just go there and spend more money. There's 1,000 other shops in Ann Arbor to do that at, but it should be more of a gathering space. And then, the affordable housing aspect of it is probably the most important part. You need more housing in big cities, especially where your college campus accounts for the vast majority of everyone living here. but it has to be affordable. I'm 27. I can barely afford housing. I live with friends. That's just part of the deal. But yeah, no one's going to be able to afford luxury apartments. It's tough. But again, thank you all for coming out here. Thank you for being here and taking all these comments. All of your support and all of the work that goes into this means the world to our families.
Hi, my name's Jenny. I was born in Ann Arbor, and then my family promptly moved out of town to Chelsea, where I grew up until I was 18. We used to have nothing to do in Chelsea. We would drive into Ann Arbor to go to things like Pinball Pete's and various stores that sadly don't exist anymore. I remember that building very well from my childhood. I actually remember before Pete's was there, my brother would take me to the different, Pete's was in multiple smaller places, I believe I remember. Yep, 3? Okay. And that's where my memories of Pete's started. That was 30 years ago. I'm 38 now. And that building, I remember, it was home to a Tower Records. That disappeared, unfortunately, but the entire chain disappeared. It was Fun for All. It was Underworld Comics. And it was my entire childhood, teenage years, my 20s. I don't live in Ann Arbor. I work in Ann Arbor. I've worked in Ann Arbor for almost a decade. I can't afford to live in Ann Arbor. I live in Ypsi, and it's getting harder to live in Ypsi because everyone's being priced out to Ypsi. This has already been mentioned, sorry. And then people are having to move out of Ypsi. And I just want to say that not only is there this place, Pinball Pete's, that means so much, obviously, to everyone here. But also, if you are going to have housing, it's got to be affordable, not just to the students that are coming in from around the world to go to U of M. It's got to be affordable to the people that live and work here.
Okay, so on the issue of housing in Ann Arbor, I believe that, 17-story high-rises are very expensive to build. And so because of that cost of building, obviously the rent is going to be higher than if it was in like a 2 or 3-story apartment building. I believe that I just think that these luxury high-rise apartments are not what we need in our community. We do need a solution to the housing in Ann Arbor, but I do not think that this is a viable solution. For one, because I don't think that it's not going to be affordable. It's expensive for you guys. It's going to be expensive for us. There are a lot of cities around the world that are able to provide housing to a lot more people than there are in Ann Arbor through use of mid-rise apartment buildings rather than high-rise. I think if we look at the area of downtown right across from the Diag where the arcade is, that is a good example of what I think would be a good solution to the housing in Ann Arbor. Expanding the area where we have mixed-use, mid-rise apartments. There's a large area around Ann Arbor that is only R1 zone, or I think it's called R1 zoning, basically single-family housing. I think that that's much more important than just one more high-rise. You said it's 210 units, and that's less than 10% of what would be needed to solve the housing crisis, I guess. I don't, sorry, that's beside, unrelated. I think that also, if you are not able to work with the community and face this backlash that you're receiving right now, I would suggest that you do not take this contract and that you stop looking into this development. We do not need people coming into our community and developing if they are not going to be part of our community.
Hi there, I'm Henry. Hang on. Okay, thank you. Hi there, I'm Henry. I'm not only a student of Ann Arbor, but I'm also someone who's been recently displaced outside of Ann Arbor because I got priced out of my lease when I went to re-sign it in August. I speak as someone who's offering feedback on this, not just as a student, but also as someone who goes in Ann Arbor and hangs out around the Southview area quite regularly. I think that Pinball Pete serves as a space that not only is a space without alcohol, but a space that is accessible at night. And I think that's really important for students who don't wish to partake in drinking, especially when the area has multiple bars in the community, and it's certainly an alcohol-focused spot at night, and Pinball Pete provides a relief for that type of thing. I'd also like to give feedback on simply the proposal itself. When you started out, you said that the proposal was a concept, and I think that describes it really well. It's a concept, a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical that maybe Pinball Pete's can be relocated to another location. It's a hypothetical that maybe a regular Michigan student who goes here on a Go Blue guarantee can afford the units within it. It's a hypothetical that maybe this space will be open to other people in the community at night. It's a hypothetical that maybe this space won't be privatized. And I think that this concept needs to go back to the drawing board. We need to dream bigger and we need to dream better of a solution that substantively matches the community and not hypotheticals. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Renee. Thank you everyone for being here. In the interest of fairness, and especially, okay, a few things. One, anyone here watch Peep Show? Because I did miss the beginning presentation, but I'm getting Mark Corrigan on the cross taking the fall for Project Zeus. This poor guy standing here being the only one fielding any questions, especially if I can tell that a lot of people are concerned about the architecture, and, well, I'm not an architect, so I don't really know. I believe, and you don't have to make yourself, one of you is an architect, right? So presumably we could have politely asked the architect to describe to us what's going on here. Why can't we do this? And I think it's important to recall that if that mall has been there since the 70s, the infrastructure is crumbling. As much as I love going there.
It's only 30 years old.
What?
That building is only 30 years old.
That building is only 30 years old. Well, that's
right.
good for American building, huh? So I think to say, well, why can't you just put, a Lego model of whatever on top of a gingerbread house? Well, you can't do that because that infrastructure will break. You literally, look.
That building was engineered to go up several more floors. It's expandable. You can look it up on the city.
That's great. Well, you can get up in the line and then we can talk and talk to me
letting you
outside.
know.
I'm trying to talk to these guys. It's kind of.
Well, you're looking at us, so.
The point is that I think that it is really great to think we can Mike Mulligan and the steam shovel Pinball Pete, but I also, that might not be realistic, but I do think it would be incredibly lucrative to be able to say, well, I live at Pinball Pete's. I think it would be a real missed opportunity, should this continue to go forward as whatever, that you would really be shooting yourself in the foot by not taking advantage of the fact that Pinball Pete's is such an institution here. I also would like to remark upon the fact, and I don't know your name, I'm looking at you, you're talking about Eric?
Eric.
Yeah, hi Eric, I'm Renee. Made mention of how the parking structure across the street was supposed to be. Someone was talking about what the lot, the parking structure that was supposed to be for affordable housing, but then got voted down, right? Did I dream that?
No, there's one across the street, whatever. Yeah, what about it?
Oh, well then if that was proposed to be affordable housing and then it still got turned into parking structure, like that, I wouldn't say it's incumbent on the developers to be the ones to tell the city what it should and shouldn't do and whether or not we need to get out and vote more or lobby the city itself. It's super easy to go after the people that are going to come down here and say, hi, we are just trying to live our life. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you. Oh my gosh, you're so angry. Holy Moses, yes, we did our research. We maybe didn't do enough. Oh my gosh. And this was the preliminary, right? certainly there's a lot for you guys to be thinking about now. And so for everybody to be acting as though these are the black hats coming in to just raise everything, it's easy and it feels good. But I think it's not productive in the community to, I don't know. Right, so Corrigan, Project Zeus. Oh, third spaces. Third spaces, that's not incumbent on a business to be a third space. Libraries are third spaces because they're funded by the government and the community. I think that the idea to revitalize that mall, to create the interstitial space to be the third space is great. But to say that a place that exists as a small business to make money is somewhere that people can go to loiter is
You're supposed to keep comments to 30 seconds. Yeah. What happened to everybody else had a timer on them? She's been talking to 4.5 minutes.
I don't know. Good faith effort. Sorry to bring the mood down.
You have a problem with loitering?
Hey, but in all fairness, I mean, everyone had a chance to say something tonight, and no one harassed anybody for saying anything.
You did 2 people.
So I don't know why you started harassing somebody who doesn't believe the same thing that you do. I don't think that's fair.
And to say that I am against it, it's just, I say it was the language.
Is it harassment to
The point is not harassing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm an actual local. I grew up here. I've been to all of the schools around here. Coming from another Ann Arbor institution, I used to run the Heidelberg up until about 6 months ago. Growing up here, I have been priced out of this town. If all this leads to is more fancy housing for fancy people, I have moved to the French Quarter of New Orleans, where I pay $13 a month for an 18th century Creole shotgun house. If I can't afford to live in my hometown, but I can afford to live in the French Quarter, the only thing I can look at as the problem is developments like this that have been coming in the last 10 and 15 years. I don't want to live down south. I want to live here.
Good plan.
I can't afford to. That is my opinion.
Hello, my name is James. One aspect I'm surprised hasn't really come up here is video game preservation. One huge thing to consider is a lot of these machines are legitimately older than I am, and if anyone has ever tried to move an electromechanical pinball machine or a CRT monitor, knows you either move that once and hope it lasts, or you're probably going to break it, and outsourcing a new one to replace it is virtually impossible these days. You have to find either crazy old collectors that want to charge thousands, that or you have to completely reconvert the machines. Like electromechanical machines have different voltage standards you have to account for now. So every time you relocate a arcade, you're risking damages to machines that can never be replaced again. So just from the preservation aspect alone, you're putting a huge amount of risk on literally destroying physical history that still works. And not only that, one of the few places I can still go to and settle debate on Street Fighter. Fair question would be, considering where things are at right now, how long would it take to revise plans for a make everyone happy scenario?
Well, from a realistic standpoint, I don't think it's possible to ever make everybody happy. We have already updated this plans actually several times, but from the first informal neighborhood meeting we did until now, we've made some material changes. Our next step will be going to the Ann Arbor Design Review Board, where I'm positive the review board will have material comments to the architectural design massing plans as well, which will necessitate further changes. We're going to try and incorporate both community feedback and the design review board changes simultaneously. And we'll almost certainly have to go to the design review board a couple more times. So, I mean, this is something that's going to be happening live over the next 4, 5, 6 months in terms of concept, design, iteration. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful or not.
It's just more there's a way to approach this where mitigations can be made. Just more if we do go those routes, how long would it take to negotiate? Just more, we can't just stand here and be mad because the way things are exactly right now. If you want to negotiate, it's kind of
Yeah, no, I totally.
Like could you dedicate like the entire first floor to Pinball Pete's and like the second floor to like all the other buildings that could be displaced there type situation?
Generally speaking, second floor retail is really tough. I mean, even at the Galleria Mall now, the second floor isn't really retail. It's
IGR for the university, program for intergroup relations.
Right. It's university operating space. So I guess short version is I don't know yet.
No worries.
It's a totally fair question. I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
it's just true. Like I said, it's literal. This is kind of the situation of like if Pinball Pete's has to go, like a literal part of gaming history dies with it, and we're talking over 50 years worth of history.
Hello. I didn't introduce myself properly when I first came up here, so let me do that real quick. My name is Lucas Reno, and I've been a proud Ann Arbor resident for over 20 years. And I want to support a project like this. I, like many people here, believe Ann Arbor is in desperate need of more affordable housing. Also, I'm an urbanist. I like dense mixed-use development, and it's part of my culture. But the more I've heard from you tonight, I've just been left with more questions than answers. So it's pretty clear that you haven't thought this proposal through all the way, which, I mean, it's fair. It's a big project. You need a lot of time to prepare for that. But maybe you should do that before you propose destroying such a treasured institution to make way for it. Right. Please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Timothy Taylor. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself when I was one of the first couple of commenters, just because of the need to keep our comments brief as we led this session off. Now, as we're coming into the last few minutes of this, there were a few other points that I had prepared, which I didn't get a chance to say, which we now clearly do have the time to take. Want to recognize just the fervor of the community and the support that they have shown Pinball Pete's. I want to recognize the urbanity of our presenters and how this has not turned into an all-out brawl, how there have not been name-calling, and how we've all kept our discourse as close to civil as we can given the passion involved in this process. That being said, there is one point which has not been made yet as far as I can tell, which is to talk about Pinball Pete's as a world-class cultural institution. And what I mean by that is Ann Arbor is absolutely lucky to have Pinball Pete's, not just as a draw, but because Pinball, and not just as a business, but because Pinball Pete's sits at an interesting intersection. As the commenter who just went before me stated, it is a landmark of game preservation, and it sits at an interesting intersection between family venue, curated museum, and cultural icon. Interactive museum, absolutely, all while operating still as a going concern. And I can tell you from a lifetime study and extensive travel in my own life that there are arcades which are the equal of Pinball Pete's in this world, but that they are almost exclusively found in Southeast Asia. They are found in South Korea, Hong Kong, and most notably Japan. And those arcades are almost exclusively by the graces of major gaming corporations such as Sega, Taito, Konami, Namco, really the hard hitters and powerhouses in this industry. And so it is perhaps all the more impressive that the proprietors of Pinball Pete's have put together this world-class collection, a collection which is in many ways the superior of its Southeast Asian counterparts, with a fraction of the budget and nothing more than their love, hard work, and sweat equity. Now, to bring us down to reality just a little bit, the law is very clear. Property owner may sell its property for any reason or no reason. They are completely legally within their rights to do so. Pinball Pete's is a tenant. The tenant must vacate in that opportunity, or when that opportunity presents itself. There's nothing that you or I are going to be able to do about the legal and capitalist reality of that situation. However, from what I'm hearing of the tone of the room, the moral imperative in this situation is to ensure Pete's survival in some form. If we were knocking down the Detroit Institute of Art and scattering its paintings all over the country with no recognition of attempting to preserve the collection in full, there would be moral and absolutely artistic outrage in this situation. And game preservation is a hot topic right now. Game preservation does not get the due that it usually requires. It's a whole different topic that is not the responsibility of the developers, and it is not the responsibility of the business holders. But it does seem to me, from the fervor I hear in this room, that there is an imperative to ensure the continued survival of Pinball Pete's and for the developers to include that in their concept. Thank you for that.
Hello. In comparison to the last commenter, mine is, I think, just rather brief. And I wanted to just highlight a group of folks who I'm not sure I've heard mentioned tonight. I've heard a lot of talk about residents. I've heard a lot of talk about students. I've heard talk of students largely in terms of a wealthy out-of-state abstract. And you know, we all know the university loves those. But I am a student who attended the university on financial aid. I'm from a small rural town on the other side of Washtenaw County. Most of my friends in college were also from small rural in-state towns. And these are people who I see constantly struggling with affordability, who are severely affected by the housing crisis in terms of students who are constantly struggling to make ends meet for their education or be pushed out of college entirely often. And these developments have not aided my peers. They have not aided the students who I see in my work who have backgrounds similar to my own. And I want that to also be a part of the thought around affordable housing, that it's not just students versus locals, that a lot of these transient residents of Ann Arbor also struggle greatly and are not going to be the ones who fill that market, who are going to continue to be pushed out when this is a public school that supposedly exists for the students of Michigan, of all of Michigan, one would think. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, this is a heads up. I think we have about 10 minutes left before we have to get out of the room because the library closes, so just so everybody's aware.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out here. My name is Brian Baronsky. I moved back to Ann Arbor in 2017. I couldn't move anywhere. I moved here. I moved to Ann Arbor. I moved here for the culture. I've noticed the culture deteriorating, in my view, deteriorating since I graduated college here back in the 70s. But I came back to Ann Arbor because Ann Arbor's got a culture that I can't find anywhere else. I personally don't believe that just another cookie cutter 17-story building will help the culture of Ann Arbor. But I think you have a huge opportunity to meet your needs, financial goals. And it will be much easier for you to get everyone's support here if you take into account the culture of South University, the neighborhood, the city, and what it really needs. It doesn't need another U Towers. If you can make Pinball Pete's your best friend in this project, you'll have my support, and probably a lot of other people's support here as well. Where you need to start, in my opinion, is where you need to start in the planning of this building. Not that Ann Arbor can't use more housing, of course it can, but displacing the culture is a non-starter. I think it's clear here that Pinball Pete's is more than just a family place. Pinball Pete's is family, and you need to keep that.
So first off, I'd like to echo what everyone else has said about Pinball Pete's and about the need for affordable housing, and perhaps would be a good angle for this project to maybe transition into. But I'd also like to commend you all on taking advantage of the lack of minimum parking requirements in Ann Arbor and scaling back the parking drastically. But I would also like to say that I'm not sure how aware you all are of the city's ambitious plans for reducing car dependency. I feel like every time they finish construction on some new piece of bike infrastructure, there's another new piece of bike infrastructure that's planning to go in, and it's getting used. I biked here 2 miles from where I live, just south of the stadium, and pretty much all my trips involve, in Ann Arbor involve biking, because just like, it sucks to drive down here, so I don't. I either bike or I take transit, and that's another thing too. The Ann Arbor Area Transit Authority has some pretty ambitious plans for 2024 and beyond. They're going to be increasing service levels on most of their routes, adding new routes. So I think it's important, and if it will help preserve Pinball Pete's, to look at not just the parking needs necessarily today, but as you mentioned, this building will be years in the future. So looking at kind of the parking needs of the future and building for that. And maybe, the parking garage could become Pinball Pete's or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
And I'm Ruth. I'm a longtime patron of Pete's, and I'm sorry if some of my talking points are now redundant, but Pete's is also a gathering place for people outside of the Ann Arbor, Ipsy, Washtenaw area. People from Wayne, Macomb, come to Pinball Pete's because it is one of the last neighborhood arcades. It is a dying breed. It is an endangered species, and it needs to be treated as such, with care and preservation. And that's all I wanted to say, that I've got friends from out of state who are concerned about Pete's right now. So.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for coming out here to discuss and field questions from everybody today, and to field compliments. That I appreciate that a lot. It shows that you're willing to listen to the community instead of just doing things, which is more credit than I give a lot of companies. So thank you for that. I moved here about a year ago from Austin, and I think I'm probably one of the few people in this entire room who didn't know Pinball Pete's really existed until about a week ago. I had heard children mention it before because I'm in the fortunate position to currently work at the CS Mock Children's Hospital, and when students or children have to drive some of them have to drive all the way down from the Upper Peninsula to get here, and they get excited after having their G-tubes removed to go, oh, we get to go to the arcade, how fun! I moved here from Austin a year ago, and it feels a little strange. Austin's city slogan is keep Austin weird, and now I'm here in Ann Arbor, and I feel like I should be saying, keep Ann Arbor weird. For a number of reasons. Chiefly, Ann Arbor is one of the most walkable cities in the United States. Ann Arbor and Austin share a lot of similarities, actually. Ann Arbor is focusing on improving its bike and walkability infrastructure. Austin is working on improving its bike and walkability structure. I understand that this development is committed to containing at least small commercial spaces, which I appreciate very, very deeply. It would help. One of the very important things about having a walkable city is mixed commercial and residential existences. One of the things that I absolutely hated about living in Texas was that there were suburbs everywhere. I couldn't go anywhere without a car. And living in downtown Austin, when I had the privilege of living with someone who was much better at finances than I was as a 19-year-old, I couldn't do anything. Everything in Austin was catered towards either people on the UT campus, which I couldn't get to. Another fun similarity between Austin and Ann Arbor, we have a state technical school with a major rivalry with another in-state school that everyone can't decide which one they're going to support, except they do, and they decided at birth, and they never change. And I would have loved in Austin for somewhere like Pinball Pete's to exist. I would have loved somewhere to exist in a safe place as a queer 20-year-old who went to live with a friend of theirs with nobody to talk to aside from the people in my community college classes and random strangers on the internet. One of the reasons that I am here today is because hearing that Pinball Pete's exists makes me really want to go visit it and learn about the community there, and I feel kind of like this is another piece of gaming history that I was born just a little bit too late to wrap my fingers around.
I'm gonna get yelled at. Can we get untopic so people can talk about Pinball Pete's and not the...
We only have a few minutes left, too. We only have a few minutes left.
Apologies for ruffling your feathers. I would also like to just state that as someone who came from another walkable city, that I do think that the displacement of the post office, which is something that has been brought up, is very, very important. As the last person who mentioned they had chronic pain conditions, I do not, though I suffer with an issue in my ankle that I need to get sorted. I am friends with a lot of people with disabilities who can't walk further than a couple of blocks, if that. I would hope that in addition to Pinball Pete's, any other commercial space that you could reserve would be saved for the post office. Thank you.
My name's Nanette, and I'll be really brief. I'm representing Pancheros Mexican Grill. Since 1994, so we'll be there 30 years come next year. And we have some employees who've been with us over 20 years. So I know we're coming to the end of the meeting, and I apologize, but I want to ask, you've mentioned that this is a process that's going to take a long time. You have it under contract. What does that mean? We have a lease. You know, we have employees that we're concerned about. While we'd love to stay in the building, it may not make sense for you to relocate us for 2 years. As we all know, retail is not the same, you know, position anywhere in the market. We have a really good position with our co-tenants and being in the Galleria. So what is the timing, and I guess what's a wrap up to the project?
Yeah, sorry. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but we're at the very beginning of this process, right? So we have to get through the city process, and then, you know, architectural drawings, construction drawings.
The library will close in 15 minutes. The internet stations will automatically shut off at 7:55 p.m. Please make any final copies at this time and take all materials to be checked out to a self-check station or to the circulation desk by 7:55 p.m. Thank you.
2.5 to 3 years before you even start construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then will you be circulating updated retail and designs? It's been difficult for us to get communications, and we're a tenant, and it took a long time to get a response. I didn't know your email was getting flooded with the community as well, the one that we were provided. So
we have the new email set up. It's on the flyer. It's coming to like our servers now. There won't be any size or bounce, or shouldn't be any size or bounce back issues. If you want to email me, I'll respond personally. Sorry that happened before.
Okay.
We didn't realize we were going to get so many messages. So I think we've got it fixed now. So thank you. And yeah, sorry that happened.
Time left, so if I start a little bit, I'm sorry I'm not good under a little bit of time limit, but okay. I keep hearing community, and how many people have said this all day? I just want to say, you're taking in everything we're saying here, right?
We're trying.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have been very civil, and we just want to work with you guys, and we just want to have Pinball Pete's still remain because, well, it's a beacon for the entire community, and we just don't want another thing replaced with something that we can't afford. And it's just something that we have a lot of attachment to. And I don't know if that doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it means something to us, so just keep that in mind, okay? I'm off to Pinball Pete's, and have a good night.
I think we've got time for just a few.
I'll make it as quick as I can. Hi, I'm Tyrus. So I'm a competitive pinball player that travels around the country playing pinball. Yeah, cool. Girl, 250, look me up. I can't stress this enough that Pinball Pete's is not like any place in the world. We've got lots of pinball spots and arcades, and it's truly wholly unique. And I think more importantly, what I want to know is, so there's the email on the flyer. Is that like a mailing list situation, or how can we best stay apprised of what you're planning to do?
Yeah, that's what we are intending, right? Now that we've got this set up, those emails are coming to us, and all future updates will, anybody who has sent an email to that list will be automatically included in future updates that go out, and then, you know, if somebody wants to opt out, they can, but we're just gonna, all future updates are gonna go to everybody who's emailed that list so far.
Awesome, thank you so much for your communication.
All right, hello. I'll just close with a couple short sentences that I want to share. The one thing I'd like to point out that has not been commented on almost at all during this entire meeting is the fact that over the course of the pandemic, Pinball Pete's created a Kickstarter to allow people to donate money. How many companies can you think of that were able to just survive off of the charity of its customers because people loved going so much? And I thank the developers to please keep this in mind. If I ever find somebody to have a family with someday, I was hoping to take my kids to Pinball Pete's. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I got one question. Does anybody know what's going on with the abandoned lot across the street from Pinball Pete's? That's been abandoned for how long? Has it been where Pinball Pete's used to be? Yeah. It used to be a safe sex story.
All right, I'm the library director. Thank you all for coming. Now get out.